In 1628, Sweden built one of the most magnificent ships of all time. It was meant to show the world the power of the Swedish Navy. Instead, it sank just 20 minutes into its very first voyage. This is the story of the Vasa, the $31 billion warship that never made it to battle. Sweden in the early 1600s was a rising power. King Gustavus Adolphus wanted a ship that would be the pride of his fleet, a floating fortress to dominate the Baltic Sea. The result was the Vasa, 69 meters long with 2 gun decks, over 60 bronze cannons, and decorated with hundreds of wooden carvings. It was more than a warship. It was a symbol of Sweden's ambition, wealth, and pride. On August 10, 1628, crowds gathered in Stockholm to see the Vasa set sail. But as it sailed into the harbor, onlookers started to notice something was going very wrong. Within minutes, the ship began to sink. Sailors and their families, some of whom were on board for the maiden voyage, jumped into the water immediately. The warship capsized right in front of the horrified crowd. In less than 20 minutes, the Vasa lay at the bottom of Stockholm's harbor. Around 30 people lost their lives that day. The king's glorious symbol of power had become an instant embarrassment. But why did this happen? In short, negligence. Let's go back to the beginning. On the day of the sinking, there were 64 cannons on the ship. There were 24 to 28 on the lower deck, each weighing nearly 2 tons, and nearly 30 on the upper deck, each clocking at around 1 ton. With the smaller swivel guns, the total weight of the armaments came close to around 90 plus tons. The weapons were far from the only problem. Atop the ship, there were also 3 masts, a foremast at the front, a mainmast, central and tallest, and a mizzenmast, or the rear mast. All 3 were at least 43 meters high, with the center mast raising to 52 meters. Add to that the 100 meters of rope and sails that they were outfitted with, and you might be noticing a problem. The ship was becoming incredibly top-heavy. As the calculations required for estimating ship stability were rudimentary at best in the 1600s, when the architects tried to take account of this, they completely underestimated their situation. Their plan to deal with the load was simple. They planned for a ballast storage in the Nile that was meant to counteract the weight above and provide stability. The Nile was loaded with nearly 130 tons of rocks. The load, however, ultimately proved too light to ride the ship's total displacement weight when fully loaded, about 10 times this amount. Ironically, some did raise valid concerns about the stability of the Vasa, but were quickly dismissed as the king demanded speedy construction. The Vasa was meant to be the crown jewel of the Swedish Navy, demonstrating both luxury and destructive power. What it turned out to be was a tall, narrow, cannon-laden coffin that ended up costing anywhere from $30 to $31 billion. You might be asking yourself, how did I get this number? It's an equal percentage of the country's spent GDP. At the time, the money spent to build the ship was about 5% of Sweden's annual budget. Today, the GDP of Sweden is roughly $620 billion, putting the ship's cost at just over $31 billion. And yeah, that's with a B, dollars. An astounding amount of money for a single ship and for one that sunk just less than a mile into its first voyage. For 300 years, the Vasa lay at the bottom of the harbor, preserved in the cold Baltic waters. In 1961, however, it was finally raised from the sea, almost completely intact. Today, the ship is displayed in a dedicated museum in Stockholm, visited by over 1 million people every year. It never fought a single battle, but it became one of the greatest, most preserved archaeological treasures of the modern world. Even though it sank without ever seeing a battle, in my opinion, it still stands as a testament to human ingenuity, and lack thereof at the same time. The story did have an upside, however, as the incident made the Swedes much more cautious in their designs and testing. Future designs were vastly improved, and fear of reliving the embarrassment of 1628 led to a greater attention to detail and to the deployment of new tests and practices to better estimate ships' abilities to keep steady. The ships were now designed to be lower, wider vessels with fewer guns and less weight overall. By the mid-1600s, Sweden even had one of the strongest navies in Europe, able to project power in the Baltic and beyond. Thanks for watching this video, and if you liked it, let me know what other historical events you would like me to research and make videos on. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content of the world that was before.